Man, it's so fun year after year to have this Christmas tradition as a church, to gather together, to sing carols with one another, to bring the kids up on stage and read them the Christmas story, the Christmas candy cane story, and then to talk about Christmas and really focus our attention on Christmas. Now, I remember growing up feeling this inner tension, and maybe you can relate with this. If you're a kid in this place, I'm guessing that you can completely relate with this. And this was the tension that I felt, that I was not supposed to love Christmas because of the gifts under the tree. Anybody feel that tension growing up? Yeah, like I had that. Some of you, like you still have that, and I join you with that, right? Like Christmas, there's so much more about Christmas. It's not about the Christmas presents under the tree, but for me, it was about the Christmas presents under the tree, right? Like my anticipation for Christmas morning started when the Sears wish list catalog came out in the mail. Those of you old enough to remember, you remember that. And it would show up in the mail, I don't know, somewhere around September, October, and you would start flipping through it as a child, circling the things that you wanted. I had two brothers, three of us all together, and we had different colored markers that we would use to circle things in the catalog. For those of you who are not familiar with the Christmas Wish catalog, it was the Amazon of the 1980s, okay? And the anticipation would grow. Now, we had a tradition at our house that no Christmas presents went underneath the Christmas tree until all of the kids went to bed at night. And once we got into our bedroom, wherever that was, my brothers and I, we would all shack up in one room for the night and wrestle with one another until we all fell asleep. And then on Christmas morning, my dad would play a song, Walking in a Winter Wonderland. And he would crank that song on the radio, on the stereo, and that was a green light for us to leave our bedroom and to run out into the living room where there was Christmas presents all underneath the tree. Like, I love that tradition. Like, we didn't see any presents until Christmas morning, but all along they kept telling me that it wasn't about the presents, but I'm just telling you. It was all about the presents. And it wasn't just about the presents that I would receive, although I did and do still love those. Like, I'm really excited about tomorrow morning when we gather around the tree. There's a conversation that Heidi and I have every year, and the conversation goes something like this, and I'm generally the one that, initiates the conversation. If it weren't for the kids, loving to see us open presents, we probably just wouldn't buy each other anything. But what that's code is, we should probably get each other something, and it's mainly because I love to open gifts on Christmas morning. Now, it's not just the gifts that you get to open that excites me about Christmas morning. It's also the gifts that you give. And I remember one Christmas, I was, 10 or 12 years old. My dad, he was a lover of old vehicles. He loved old cars. He loved old trucks, and at this stage in my life, he had this old 1963 Chevy step-side pickup truck. He loved it. It was his pride and joy. It wasn't the shiniest truck in the world, but he washed that thing on a regular basis. He loved that truck. Now, one thing about my dad is the wheels and tires on the truck mattered a great deal. And this truck, he had never quite gathered enough funds in order to buy a nice set of rims for the tire. Well, I happened to find out that our neighbor was selling some slotted mags. And I inquired, how much are these mags going to cost? They're polished aluminum, they're going to be beautiful. And just so happens, he was willing for me to mow his yard and to give him a few dollars in order to get these mags for my dad's truck. So I worked like crazy in order to get these mags, and I could not wait for Christmas morning when my dad would open up the gift and he would pull out a brand new set of rims for his truck. Man, the moment did not disappoint, because when my dad opened it, he could not believe that his 10 or 12-year-old son figured out that he wanted mags for his truck and was able to get them. And he pulled them out and he loved them. In fact, He sold that truck with the mags on it, and here about 10 years ago, he found the guy that bought it and was able to buy them back for the truck that he has now. So my dad still has these mags. Like, how cool is that? And it was moments like those, moments where you open up a gift or you give a gift and you see the person accept it and receive it out of the love that it was given, like that gets me excited. So no matter how many times I was told it's not about the gifts, internally I could not help but make it all about the gifts. And this evening, I just want to relieve some tension inside of you if you feel the tension. It's okay to make Christmas all about the gifts. And for some of you, you're like, and this is where we came on Christmas Eve? Seriously, it's okay to make Christmas all about the gifts. And here's why. I will wrap it up in one sentence, and by the end of it, I hope that this sentence makes more sense to you. Here is the sentence. The grandeur of Christmas is found in the gift of Christmas. The grandeur of Christmas is found in the gift of Christmas. And we're going to look at another story inside of the Bible. It's another account of Jesus' life. I love the one that Pastor Adam read earlier on in our gathering, found in Luke. The one we're going to read is found in the book of John. In fact, 3 of the first 4 books of the New Testament, they have an account of Jesus' birth. The first 4 books of the New Testament are called the Gospels. These are different perspectives of Jesus' life. Why he came, why he lived, why he died, all of it. And 3 out of the 4 have an account of the first Christmas. Again, Pastor Adam read the account in Luke. We're going to read the account in John. It's found in John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, and then I'm going to jump down to verse 9. And this is what John has to say about the first Christmas. It said, in the beginning, the Word already existed. Now, if you're not familiar with this passage, wondering why the word is capitalized, is because John is actually talking about the person Jesus, whom we celebrate his birth at Christmas time. So he says, in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. You see, John, the author of the Gospel John, he knows the grandeur of Christmas, and that's why he opens his account of Jesus' birth and the first Christmas with grand fashion. It's beautiful, it's poetic, and it is full of truth. Like these first 5 verses, 9 verses, 18 verses of the Gospel of John, they are packed full of truth. It's in these first few lines that we learn so much about why Christmas matters and why it is so important. It's in these first few lines that we learn about the transcendence of God. He's superior to all. He's above and beyond and outside of all of creation. It says, in the beginning, the Word already existed. God already existed. How incredible is that? Throughout all time, all places, mankind has been asking this question, why is there nothing? Why is there not nothing, rather? Why is there not nothing? That question is simply just wondering, how did all of this get here? How did it all start? How did it all begin? Well, John answers that question for us. See, he doesn't just start with the birth of Jesus. He reaches back to the ancient story of creation and ties the birth of Jesus to the ancient story, this transcendent God who, with the power of his word, spoke all of creation into existence. He doesn't just stop at the transcendence of God. He actually talks about the immanence of God as well, this reality that God has been pervading, like persistently pervading all of humanity, sustaining the universe in his hand. So God didn't just breathe life into existence and then step back and say, have at it, people. He has been intimately involved in his creation since the very beginning. It is God who breathed life and sustains life, permanently sustaining life in this universe. And then John goes on to tell us, and this is where the story gets really exciting for you and I, that God became one of us for us. That he didn't just stay at a distance, but rather he stepped out of eternity and joined humanity. He became one of us for us. And friends, that is the grandeur of Christmas. The grandeur of Christmas is the gift of Christmas. Christmas, if false, Christmas is a celebration of Jesus' birth. If it is false, it is of no importance at all. There's no need for us to gather together in a space like this on December 24th, sing songs of worship, Christmas carols. Like, if Jesus wasn't really born, if God didn't really become one of us for us, then this is all for naught. It is of no importance at all. If true, however, if Christmas is true, it's of infinite importance. It's of importance that's so far outside of our ability to understand it. Like, it is infinitely important. The only thing that it can't be is moderately important. So Christmas, if untrue, no importance. If true, infinitely important. The only thing that it cannot be is moderately important. And I know for me, if I'm not careful, Christmas becomes just moderately important. I get sidetracked. I get off task. I get thinking about all of the accoutrements that come along with Christmas, and I neglect the real gift of Christmas. And for me, if I'm not careful, Christmas just becomes moderately important. But what we've been doing as a church for the last month is really trying to focus our minds and our hearts on the meaning, the true meaning of Christmas, the grandeur of Christmas represented in the gift of Christmas. And the gift of Christmas, friends, it comes by way of invitation. This evening, I want to spend the rest of our time talking about 3 invitations that the Christmas story gives us. 3 invitations that it invites us into. Number 1 is this: Christmas is an invitation to ponder. Christmas is an invitation to ponder. So this evening, I give you the permission to ponder the real depth, the real meaning of Christmas. Again, Christmas can't be just moderately important. It's either of no importance or it is infinitely important. And I would propose, I'm biased, but it's on the infinitely important side of things. And this is an opportunity, this season is an opportunity for us to ponder the importance of Christmas. Who is Jesus? Who is Jesus? Like, pause long enough to kind of wrestle through the reality that here we are, gathered together in a room on Christmas Eve, celebrating the birth of this man, Jesus. Now, every second of every day, there are 4.6 babies born around the world, roughly, give or take. 4.6 babies born per second every day of every year. Why in the world, 2,000 years later, are we still celebrating the birth of this man, Jesus? Why? Why are we still celebrating it? Well, John, in his gospel account, he makes it abundantly clear why we continue to celebrate the birth of this man named Jesus, because he is God who came to become man. And to ponder the reality, like, what does that mean for me as a human being? What does that mean for me personally? Like, when you begin to ponder who Jesus is, all of a sudden the grandeur of Christmas's big scale comes down and it narrows in very personally. Then what does Jesus mean to me? Is Jesus just somebody I celebrate a couple of times a year? Or is Jesus somebody that I'm willing to put my faith, trust, and hope in for the rest of my life? See, John doesn't just tell us that Christmas is an invitation to ponder Jesus. He goes on to tell us that Christmas is an invitation into the light. What does it say? It says the Word gave life to everything that it was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. See, this is an invitation. Christmas is an invitation for every human being to step out of the darkness and into the light. Now, when you are walking in the dark, there is no greater gift than the light. Isn't that true? How many of you are bold enough to admit that you're a tad bit afraid of the dark? I am. I'm afraid of the dark. And when I'm really afraid of the dark, when I see just a glimmer of light, man, it gives me so much hope. Doesn't it? I remember, man, about 20 years ago, I was sandblasting ballast tanks at the shipyard over in Bremerton, Washington. And ballast tanks on a submarine, they are deep. There's lots of them. It's like a maze working your way through. And the size of myself, not being a very large human being, they always put me in the furthest back, the most desolate spot in the tank. They were always like, man, who's going to do? Oh, Nate, you're fit. And they would send me in. Now, here's the thing about sandblasting, is you go in there with a sandblaster and you have all of this gear on and you have one light. And your light has a little bit of air running through it so that the grit doesn't get inside. And your hope is that your light never goes out. Because I got to tell you, there is no darker place on the planet than inside of a ballast tank on a submarine. And I brought a flashlight with me in my bag just in case my light went out. I'd bring a flashlight in there so I could find my way out. Well, one day I was in there sandblasting. It's in the middle of the day, but I'm telling you, it is dark as night you've never seen. It is so dark, you don't even have an imagination inside of a space this dark, okay? And I was back there sandblasting, and all of a sudden my light on my sandblaster went out, so I reached for my bag to pull out my spare flashlight, and I went to turn it on, and it didn't work, which I learned an important lesson that day. Check your light before you go in. But I remember sitting there like way back in, just figure like 30 feet inside of a tank, and I had to crawl through different holes to get out. And I remember sitting there like frozen, paralyzed in the darkness because I could not see a thing. And I had to finally calm myself down. I was like, well, you can't sit here forever. Nobody's coming to get you. You're going to have to make your way out of here. So I decided, I know, I can follow my blast hose back out. So I just grabbed it one hand at a time, and I started working my way back through all of the caverns. And I will never forget the feeling when I finally came through one of those holes and I saw a glimmer of light. I was like, I am finally there. I'm finally there. This dichotomy between light and darkness, John knows that we are very familiar with it as people, and that's why he uses it in his opening lines of his gospel message to help us understand that this God who was becoming one of us for us, it was the light coming into the darkness to shine a light, to make a way, to bring us hope where there is no hope. For some of us, we're walking in the daylight, but you can be walking in the daylight and still be in darkness. And you'll know that by some of the questions that you ask, like you're making your way through your day, just a regular day, and you ask some questions like this, like there has to be more to life than this, right? Like, is this all there is? Or how about this? Seems like I have everything that I ever wanted, everything that I've aimed for, I've got, but why do I lack purpose? Seems like there should be more purpose to life than what I'm currently living out. Or how about this question, one that resonates with so many? How do I make sense of all the chaos and the pain and the suffering around me? See, those are just some of the questions that even though you may be walking in the light of day, you still might be walking in the darkness. Those are some of the questions that you wrestle with. Those are some of the questions that you ask, and those are some of the questions that Jesus came to shine a light on for us. So when John tells us that the light was coming into the world and he was going to shine on the darkness, and then he goes on to say, and the darkness cannot extinguish it. It's an invitation to step out of the darkness and into the light, to step out of the chaos into the light. Christmas provides us an opportunity to do this, which brings us to our third invitation this evening. It's the greatest invitation of Christmas. Christmas is an invitation to receive a gift. Christmas is an invitation to receive a gift. At the beginning of this, I said to you, I'm going to relieve the tension. It is okay to love Christmas for the gifts. And the reason why is because the gifts that we give and the gifts that we receive are meant to remind us of the greatest gift ever given to humanity, the gift of Jesus Christ. You see, every great gift is given with one thing behind it, and it is love. Love is what precipitates the greatest gifts ever given. That morning when I could not wait for my dad to open up his slotted mag rims, I could not wait because I was giving him a gift of love. Tomorrow morning when we sit around and we watch our kids open their presents, we'll be sitting there, Heidi and I, with a cup of coffee in hand, like smiling because they receive it with the love that it was given. And that, friends, is what Christmas is. And that's why later on in John's gospel, he tells us what this gift is. It comes out of probably the most familiar verse in all of Scripture. If you don't spend much time in church at all, likely you've heard this verse. This is one of the first verses I ever memorized because we got candy bars given to us in Royal Rangers when we would quote a verse. This is the one I quoted every chance I got. This is what John 3:16 tells us. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish, but would have everlasting life. What is Christmas? Christmas is the greatest gift ever given. Christmas is an invitation to receive the greatest gift ever given in love. See, oftentimes I think when we're not familiar with the God of the Scriptures, we haven't spent much time with him, we think of him as a grumpy old man just waiting us to step out of line. In fact, some people, they struggle walking through the doors of a church because they say things like, lightning will definitely strike me if I show up. I want you to know it's not true because I'm living proof, okay? If lightning was going to strike bad people when they walked into church, I would have been dead a long time ago. That's not the God of the Scriptures. The God of the Scriptures is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he did what? He gave. He gave a gift that is his Son, Jesus Christ, that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. In fact, John, at the end of his gospel, it's in John chapter 20, he tells us why he spent so much time writing the whole gospel. He says, I wrote these things down that you might believe in Jesus, and by believing in him, you would find life in his name. Christmas is an invitation to receive the greatest gift ever known. Christmas is an invitation to know Jesus and to know him personally. When given a gift, you always have two options. You can either receive it with joy, or you can reject it and push it away. And this is my hope. This has been my prayer. And I want to make myself available for anybody who wants to talk about what it looks like to put your hope and trust in Jesus, what it looks like to receive this gift that is Jesus Christ. That you would not reject it any longer. It doesn't matter if you've been rejecting this message for your whole life. Today, this season, it's a great time. It's the perfect time. Couldn't think of a better time to receive the gift than here and now on this Christmas Eve. So rather than rejecting it and pushing it away, would you open your heart to receive why it is we celebrate Christmas by receiving the greatest gift ever given? Now, maybe you're here and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if that I'm ready to make that full step. Would you at least, coming out of this message and on through the rest of the Christmas season, would you at least take time to ponder what Christmas is really all about? If we could have the worship team come at this time. We have a couple more songs to sing with each other. And as they come, I want to continue on in John's Gospel, John chapter 1, verses 10 through 14. And this is what he says. He says, he came into the world he created, but the world did not recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God. They are reborn, not with a physical birth resulting from human passion or plan, but a birth that comes from God. So Jesus became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son. Again, as Jesus walked this earth, there were some who rejected him, and there were some who received him. And for those who received him, he called them children of God, sons and daughters of his. Friends, my hope is, as we begin to wrap things up, is that we don't miss Jesus this Christmas. That we don't miss him. That you're here and you're not yet a follower of Jesus Christ. My prayer for you is that you don't miss Jesus. That you don't let another calendar year go by and you find yourself back in a room like this, singing songs about this guy named Jesus, without taking time to really ponder who he is and surrender your life to him. For those of you who have been serving Jesus forever, like you're decades into this thing, don't miss Jesus this Christmas season. Don't let the familiarity of Christmas make it not familiar to you at all. Take time to not miss Jesus this Christmas season. Would you stand to your feet this evening? We have two more songs that we're going to sing. One is, it's the song we're about ready to sing, it's Silent Night. And as an illustration and as a symbol of what it was like for Jesus to enter into our darkness, we're going to turn all the lights off in here. It's going to be dark. The lights in the lobby are going off as well. And you should have received a candle on your way in. What we want to do with these candles is we want to turn them off right now. And we're going to sing one of the verses in darkness. And then you'll see me turn my candle on. And when I turn it on, then you're welcome to turn yours on as well. And we'll illuminate this place with candles. And here's what we want the illustration to represent. This reality that Jesus didn't run from runaways, that he didn't run away from us, that he ran towards us, and that as he did, he brought light into the darkness. And that this light that he brought to us is not meant to remain in this room. Rather, we'll carry this light with us through the rest of our Christmas celebration. We'll carry this light on with us into the rest of this year and on into the next, recognizing that the gift of Christmas is not meant to be kept to ourselves, but to share with the world around us. So if we could have all the lights come out as the band begins to play.